we want to talk about the current negotiations that is going to be happening between the Islamic Republic and United States. And especially, I want to talk about Ghalibaf today. This Ghalibaf is very important. And I think we now have a much better understanding of what's happening behind the scenes. And I will show you why we have that understanding. Okay. What's actually happening? So, Ghalibaf is the main guy that the United States is talking to from the Islamic Republic. That's the guy that they're talking about him being much more pragmatic and flexible. But he's also the same person that, the tweets that we're seeing from him, the posts that he makes, shows that he's actually taking a very aggressive, non-flexible position. And basically, we have a Jekyll and Hyde situation right now here with Ghalibaf. We're not dealing with one Ghalibaf; we're dealing with two Ghalibafs. Like the way that Ghalibaf is presenting himself publicly is completely different from the way he's negotiating with the Americans. Apparently, what we know now is behind the scenes, he's a lot more flexible. A lot more flexible, but the reason why he has to come and demonstrate that he's so and not flexible and is actually taking a very aggressive stance and not willing to compromise at all is because, as we mentioned many times, he needs to the regime supporters will consider him to be treasonous, betraying spy, a Zionist spy, just the same way that they wanted the execution of Javad Zarif and Rouhani. They're going to go after him as well. So let me just go over everything that we know regarding what's happening. So here, let me actually show some posts by President Trump. President Trump posted here: the failing New York Times and fake news CNN each reported a totally fake 10-point plan on the Iran negotiation, which was meant to discredit the people involved in the peace process. All 10 points were made up. Hoax, evil losers, make America great again. Guys, so the 10-point plan that we're seeing from the Islamic Republic, there's not one version of that. There's at least three versions of that. And the most important one, which is supposed to be the one that the Americans saw and really liked, hasn't been like, we haven't seen that. Like, nobody is showing that. We're seeing other versions of it, right? Then we had this other post, President Trump saying all U.S. ships. So now that it's being exposed that Ghalibaf might be actually flexible, now Ghalibaf is coming out and being less flexible. So this is how, when Donald Trump realized that maybe they're not being flexible, the reason why he has to be less flexible once it gets exposed is because he needs to save himself from the regime supporters. So once that came out that Ghalibaf is actually meeting with the Americans, guys, the fact that he might be negotiating with the Americans, that's enough to make the pro regime people go mad and want his blood. So imagine if not only he's negotiating with the Americans, it comes out that he's being flexible. That would be the end of him. And this is why, when President Trump's seeing less flexibility, I think that's caused him to post this, right? So he's saying all U.S. ship, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for a lethal prosecution and the destruction of the an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully compiled with. Yeah, it if for any reason it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting starts bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. It was agreed a long time ago, and despite all of the fake rhetoric to the contrary, no nuclear weapons, and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. In the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward actually to its next conquest. So this is again, as we predicted, the Americans are using this as a way to reload. And also, President Trump confirmed that there's numerous agreements, lists, and letters are being sent out by people that have absolutely nothing to do with the U.S. Iran negotiation. In many cases, they are total fraudsters, charlatans, and worse. They will be rapidly exposed after our federal investigation is completed. Okay, so I just want to keep do this faster, so I'm just going to go through this. Ghalibaf came out and posted this, and I think this is after him noticing the pressure internally. He's saying Lebanon. So he basically pointed out that there are some things that is happening that is violates the 10-point agreement, but the point agreement that he's referring to was the one that they put out there publicly, not the one that the Americans saw behind the scenes and enjoyed. So, but he's basically trying to show that the 10-point agreement is basically being violated, so we don't like it. He did this just to make the regime supporters happy. So he's saying Lebanon and the entire resistant axis as Iran's allies from an inseparable part of this are okay from an inseparable part of the ceasefire. So that's point one of the 10-point proposal. So they're saying this has been violated because Israel right now is attacking Hezbollah like really hard. And then two, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif publicly and clearly stressed the Lebanon issue. There is no room for denial and backtracking. And then three, ceasefire violations carry explicit costs and strong response. Extinguish the fire immediately. And then we saw another thing posted by Ghalibaf here, where we mentioned the statement of the violation of the. So yeah, this was the full thing. Now the very workable basis of which to negotiate has been openly and clearly violated even before the negotiation has begun. And then it says in such a situation, bilateral ceasefire and negotiation is unreasonable. So again, this is something that some regime supporters enjoyed, but it's not enough. So look at this. Iran's 10-point ceasefire proposal included the phrase acceptance of enrichment in the Persian version, but the phrase was omitted from the English version that the Iranian diplomats sent to reporters. And it's unclear why there's a difference. AP reported. I mean, actually, it's very clear why there's a difference, because the regime supporters will be like, I mean, guys, the regime supporters, the fact that they're even talking, they can't tolerate that. Imagine if they hear that Ghalibaf is basically like showing flexibility to the last thing that they would like. Guys, they don't even want to see flexibility on Hezbollah. So forget about the support of proxies, forget about the missiles, forget about the drones, like, and absolutely not even, don't even talk about enriching uranium. Something as minor as Hezbollah being abandoned is not acceptable for them. But something as minor as just you even talking to them in the same room is not even acceptable to them. Like, you see how far away we are to anything being possible? Guys, we're not dealing with Ghalibaf, we're dealing with regime supporters, and they're not flexible, even if Ghalibaf wants to be flexible. Saeed Qasim-Najad posted this. Saeed Qasim-Najad is the number one main advisor of Princess of Pahlavi and the main chief editor of the Iran Prosperity Project's transition period plan. He said the regime has published its version of the 10-point plan. The White House can easily prove the regime is lying by publishing the real 10-point plan. What is the reason for not publishing it? Protecting a regime that the administration says is lying to his face. So, guys, I don't know why they're not publishing it, but I think it's actually like it's working in our favor, because right now, by the Americans coming out and saying that, oh yeah, we actually have a much better version than the one that they're putting out there, without actually showing the better version, is causing a lot of division among regime supporters. Some are against Ghalibaf. Some of them are turning against Ghalibaf, but because some of them have been told that Ghalibaf has the blessing of Mujtaba. Remember, I played you a video from a Maddah, a religious vocalist, that's saying, guys, like, Dr. Ghalibaf has Mujtaba's blessing. So this is causing them to be divided. Whether, like, are we, like, what are we doing? Are we doing a ceasefire, or is Ghalibaf like a spy or something, right? That is because we were winning. Why are we doing a ceasefire? And maybe this is a way that Ghalibaf is trying to save the Americans and the Israelis, right? And I think that, so you could either do the Islamic Republic a favor and not expose the fact that there's two different versions of Ghalibafs out there at all, or you could expose them completely and basically show what they're saying publicly and throw him completely under the bus. But the problem with that version is that by that point, if you do that, then you would unite the regime supporters all against Ghalibaf. But I think this middle ground is actually working out the best, because it's half and half right now, and you have division. So by not throwing him completely under the bus, by just exposing the fact a little bit, then do you have a lot of division within the Islamic Republic. So it's working out well. I don't know if this is by design or not, but it's working out. JD Vance also talked about this.
To address the 3 points, first of all, he talked about an attack that had allegedly happened on Iran and how that was a violation of the ceasefire. Ceasefires are always messy. An hour after the president announced the ceasefire, the Iranians launch a bunch of missiles. Then the Israelis responded. Then Arab states responded. This is the nature of a ceasefire. No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness. What we have been very clear about is that we want to stop the bombing. We want our allies to stop the bombing, and with you.
Yeah, so let me actually go to the next video because this one is actually more important.
I think it's very.
I don't know why X is not working today. Sorry, let me try to close Windows here.
About Iran, sir. So let me just say, given.
Let me just read the.
I was going to ask about Iran. Let me just say a few things, actually. So, to be honest with the American people on this particular issue, because it affects not just, the normal issues of public policy. It actually affects peace and war. And here's what I mean. So in the past.
Yeah, sorry guys, I don't know why it's not working, but let me just tell you the summary. JD Vance mentioned that, Ghalibaf is here. Let me actually read it. JD Vance just exposed that the fake the fake news keeps posting trash and rejected Iranian 10-point proposals, misleading the American people. The first 10-point proposal, we think, frankly, was probably written by ChatGPT. Oh my God, I wish I could play this. This is really good. Here.
About Iran, sir. So let me just say, given you guys are going
to. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna download this. It would be better. Give me a second, guys. Sorry about this. This is important. I'll promise I will get to the list very soon, but I need you guys to see this. Here, unmute. Share this one here.
So let me just say, given you guys are going to ask about Iran, let me just say a few things, actually. So, number one, I think it's very important for the American media to be honest with the American people on this particular issue, because it affects not just, the normal issues of public policy. It actually affects peace and war. And here's what I mean. So in the past couple of days, I've seen a lot of reporting from the American media about the 10-point proposal that the Iranians have made. Now, as I know, because I've been involved in this, there are 3 different 10-point proposals, at least, that I've seen floating around. The first 10-point proposal was something that was submitted, and we think, frankly, was probably written by ChatGPT, that was submitted to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. That immediately went in the garbage and was rejected. There was a second 10-point proposal that was much more reasonable, that was based on some back and forth between us, between the Pakistanis and Iranians. That is the 10-point proposal that the president was referencing in his truth yesterday. And then, frankly, I've seen a third 10-point proposal that's even more maximalist than the first 10-point proposal that's been floating around various social media channels. Now, here's what's interesting about all this, is that I've seen various organs, the New York Times, CNN, others, pick up and run the original 10-point proposal based on little more than a random Yahoo in Iran submitting it to public access television in the country of Iran, and then them saying that somehow represents the negotiating position of the government. It's the equivalent of somebody in, let's say, a Democratic councilman in Boise, Idaho, saying something crazy, the local public access TV picking up that crazy about Iran, sir.
So that was that. And then here, Ghalibaf, we got the report that Ghalibaf is supposed to lead the Iranian side in the Friday talks with the US. If that happens, we still don't know if that's confirmed 100% or not, but that would be a huge deal, because then it would make it very clear to regime supporters that Ghalibaf is actually part of the negotiations. So Ghalibaf would be, so the reason, so IRGC, which is a foreign minister, he used to meet with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. He is not as high as Mohammad Ghalibaf. So if they send JD Vance, JD Vance equivalent would be Ghalibaf, which is like higher than Arakchi. But if Ghalibaf shows up, then because Arakchi is considered to be a reformer, so calling him a treasonous like traitor, that is like normal within the regime supporters. But Ghalibaf is not considered to be a reformer. But if he goes meets with the Americans, he will now be grouped with people, with the other reformers, as like Zionist spies.
Pakistan, in-person peace talks, and this is what the table is going to look like for what could be JD Vance's biggest assignment yet as vice president. He will be there. Steve Witkoff, the special envoy, will be there. Jared Kushner, another special envoy, will be there on the U.S. side.
And then, guys, remember that the way that they try to make the regime supporters accept a ceasefire is by the state TV saying that Khamenei ordered the ceasefire, and basically they said that they mentioned that they all the armed forces must accept this ceasefire. Like, why would they say that unless the regime, the IRGC is not fragmented? Like, why would this state TV need to come out and say like, oh guys, you have to accept the ceasefire? This already is exposing disagreements between different IRGC segments. And it also shows that Ghalibaf doesn't have control over all segments of IRGC, and that's why they have to use Mujtaba's, I don't know, dead body or vegetable body, I don't know what his state of condition is right now, to just basically make statements on his behalf to get everybody in line, but it's not working. This video, I haven't shown you this one. Let me just show you. I mean, I have a lot of videos showing the internal fighting, but I'm just going to show you two so that we could get to your opinion. Sorry guys, this today we went longer because I just needed you guys to understand this. Let me just show you two videos to see the internal division within regime supporters. So this was like after the ceasefire was announced. This is one of this video I haven't shown you yet, right? So they're fighting. So he's saying that our supreme leader, the last thing he said is that the Strait of Hormuz needs to remain closed. And look, everybody is now pointing up, like, hey, look up, everybody look up, right? And they go up. And the billboard says from the supreme leader that the Strait of Hormuz needs to remain closed. Like, guys, like this is like, you guys put the billboard up there that the Strait of Hormuz needs to remain closed by the orders of the supreme leader. And now you're saying the supreme leader is saying like we have ceasefire and they're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. Then what the hell is that billboard over there? Look at this. Everybody's pointing up. Again, this video is longer. I'm not going to go, but just longer. I have a lot of videos like this, but let me just show you this one as well. Wait, is it this one? No, it's not this one.
To be clear, that message that Hormuz must remain closed, that's from Ali Khamenei, right? Not Mujtaba?
Well, no, that's from Mujtaba. They
Like
say, I mean, Mujtaba is not talking, but they're saying it's from Mujtaba, right? Because Ali Khamenei died before any of this happened, right? So it's from Mujtaba, right? But look at this. Now they're cursing. By the way, this AI translation is all wrong. It's all wrong. Let me just do one more minute and then, guys, I'll get to your questions, right? So now they're cursing Ghalibaf in the street. So they're saying that today we got news and it has been confirmed that Ghalibaf is going to Islamabad, Pakistan, for negotiations. And they're saying, oh, Ghalibaf, saying, Mr. Ghalibaf. Like, whatever you have in this country can be sacrificed for the blood of our supreme leader. Or like, he's saying, curse be upon you if you want to waste the blood of our supreme leader. He's saying, oh people. So now he's quoting some religious Arabic, one of the main Islamic like Shia imams leaders. So he's referring to certain things like hundreds of years ago within the Shia imams. But here's the important part. I'm not going to do this Islamic teaching here. So he's saying Hayat min nazalat is Arabic for what Hussein said before he was killed in Karbala. Not this is a phrase that Shias, which means like we will not accept this humiliation. Like, oh, be to us, like we will never accept this level of humiliation. It's just basically something Shias would say. That means we will continue to fight. We will not negotiate with our enemy because this is such a level of humiliation that we'd rather die fighting than talk to an enemy. So that's what this is Hayat min nazalat. That's what they say, and the crowd responds. right, so you can see that the situation is tense, that they are divided. And guys, I saw this coming years ago, and I think you guys should be somewhat impressed, because I also, as soon as this revolution started, I predicted that this will happen, that it will end up leading to this division among their regime supporters over whether they negotiate or not. And this is the greatest weakness of the Islamic Republic. And for years, even if you go look at my Persian shows from the Master Revolution, I was always insisting that the Iranian people taking off their hijab, that is not about freedom to wear what you want. That is about turning the regime against itself. Because when the Iranian women were taking off their hijab a couple of years ago, the main utility of that was regime supporters were attacking the Islamic Republic because Islamic laws was not being enforced on Islamic land, in their opinion. So it has always been, when it comes to hijab, when it comes not to being able to respond to the Israelis properly in the 12-day war, and now and negotiating with the killer of Qasem Soleimani before, and now negotiating with the killer of Ali Khamenei now. This is the division that this causes within the Islamic Republic. This is the best chance we have to take down the Islamic Republic. By the more the opposition is united and the more the Islamic Republic is divided, the closer we are to the fall of the Islamic Republic. This has always been the strategy, and now you're seeing it's actually working and we're getting closer. Anyway, but now we could go to the questions.
Okay, so I have a long list today. I'm going to ask that people that respond, you get 25 seconds each, let's say. So I have Ali, Jeffrey, and then Taran in that order.
Okay, isn't this wonderful? This is amazing. So I want to add a bit more to that. We expertly manipulated everyone for these talks to happen. The goal was for the talks to happen. We wanted this to happen. Pakistan talked to both the US and IRGC, okay? So the US went and told Pakistan, hey, we're going to compromise on some points. And Pakistan was like, oh, wow, okay. They tell the IRGC, hey, look, the US wants to compromise. They want to end the war. And the IRGC is like, yeah, we're winning. Let's give them all of our unreasonable demands. So then Pakistan throws those demands at the US, and the US just physically threw them in the trash. And now they're doing all of this where they're like, okay, we're going to send Vance now. They have to send Ghalibaf. Ghalibaf's going to look like a traitor. We already know that the regime supporters losing their support for the regime does way more than any bomb could. This was the goal from the beginning. And we declared that we were going to start this new phase. But obviously, we're not going to telegraph our intentions from the get go. So I think this is amazing.
I don't know if this is by design or not, but it's working very well. So if it is by design, I don't know. Whoever came up with this is genius, but the effects, the results are good. The results are good. But yeah.
Okay,
So,
Jeffrey next.
Yeah, the discontinuity of the messages being sent very much reflect a regime that is fragmented. It's probably a combination of three things. One, you have a fragmented regime because we decapitated their first, second, and third tier of leadership, almost like crushed them. There's probably some strategic deception and denial ish, although very hand fisted approach. And operationally, it means that regime remnants do not have positive control over their forces. Right, that's why you're having people firing missiles, even if they say no, and they have to use like the media to sit there and tell them don't fire or fire or whatever. So those have both positive and negative connotations to them. Yeah. That's why even Don's like, we don't even know who to talk to. We're like communicating the way they did 2,000 years ago with kids handing people notes, right? I mean, we had to do that because that was a way to stop what the Mullah regime was getting ready to do with regards to mass launching missiles, drones, and sparking an uncontrollable escalation spiral. So there's pluses and negatives to that. We're definitely taking advantage of that now in the battle of the narratives. I mean, clearly. The other part is it will have almost assuredly, it could have positive impact on the second stage of liberating Iran.